morning, everybody. We're about to start some argon tests with the new Hotshot 360 from American Kiln. You'll notice this is very similar to the Bar Z types with the slant top control. A lot of things didn't change, some things did. So far, I think everything's for the better. But I was helping out American Kiln do their argons, and I'm ready to do some argon testing. And we've got a argon injector here, kind of what you're used to seeing. Got a stainless steel bushing in the top of the oven, and with the new design, we've got an air gap. I guess you can see back to that fan back there in the back, but there's an air gap between the inner oven and the outer oven. So this actually turned into a sleeve. Let me pull this injector out. So that little bushing right there, you see there's a sleeve pressed into it, and that creates a sleeve from the inner skin to the outer skin. I'm going to try to get down there where you can see it. It's pretty dark in there. There it is. But there's a, you can see that bushing threaded in there, and then that's a stainless steel sleeve that just kind of guides the argon injector in and guides you all the way down into the chamber. And then there's your argon injector right up there poking through. All right, and it's the same tip of the injector that we had before. 4 cross-drilled holes, plugged at the end, Inconel. And I did this test with no argon flowing. So you can leave this injector in all the time. There was no damage there. I mean, the Inconel's discolored and turned black, but it didn't scale up and didn't make it where I couldn't get it out of the sleeve anymore. And, you know, you could give it a quick polish with Scotch-Brite if you wanted to after the oven's cool. But we're just using a swage lock connector here. But I did run this at 2,000 degrees for about 4 hours with the injector in there and no argon flowing. So I wasn't actually cooling the injector while I was doing it. I think the saving grace of this, see, I tried this with the Bar Z hot shots, and I overheated the needle, and we got really hot in this area, and you know, without argon flowing, it overheated this fitting. I think with the new design and with our inner sleeve and the cooling fan and everything, it makes that problem go away, which was an added bonus. It's pretty cool. But anyways, bushing, guide sleeve, Inconel injector, and we're ready to actually do a test. And I'm ready to take this over to the, I'm going to go ahead and unplug it, the Novus, and take it over to the laptop and show you the ramp and soak profile I'm going to plug into here. And I'll go through that with you. But you're not going to have to do this in the future. This is just a prototype, but the ones that are up and coming are going to have a USB port on the side, so you can plug right into the oven and program your controller without having to take, you know, a lot of you guys know this controller just unplugs and you can plug it into a mini USB. But the up and coming American Kilns are going to have the USB built right in. And we've got Novus's blessing to do that, to power it up with its native power supply and also power it up with the USB, so it's not going to hurt the controller as we thought before. Okay, but let's go get this thing programmed. I've got some 01 tool steel we're going to test with, and we're going to get some argon flowing here and do some tests on the flow rates that I know work with the Bar Z hot shots, but we need to make sure they work with the American Kiln hot shots, because now we have air movement all around this cabinet, and I don't know how if that's going to disrupt the argon within the chamber or what it's going to do. Let's find out. Okay, so we've got our controller plugged in, mini USB plugged into the laptop, and we're just going to set the ramp and soaks, just a typical sequence. I'm going to show you what they are and what everything here. PTOL is a tolerance, so we're going to leave our tolerance at 0. What this does is if the oven breaks tolerance by this value, it stops the clock on the way up. So if we call for 100 degrees and it's only making 99, it'll wait until it catches up to 100 to restart the clock. The ovens hold good temperature on the way up. They follow the ramp and the curve's nice. So I leave the tolerance set to 0. That disables the feature. PSP0 is our starting point, 100 degrees. PT1 right here is set for 120 minutes. T is a time, and E is an event, and an SP is a set point, as seen over on the left column. So PT1 is 120 minutes. Our event is off, which means no alarm. Our next set point is set point 1 is 1500 degrees. So how this is going to react, this is a ramp between 100 degrees. It's going to take 120 minutes to reach 1500. So it's going to ramp up over a 2-hour period to 1500 degrees. Next up, we've got 30, which is a time, so 30 minutes. Event is off, so no alarm. It's going to hold, I put the same value in here, so it's 1500 degrees for 30 minutes. So it's 2 hours to ramp up to 1500 and a half-hour soak. After that, you're going to see a 1, which is a time. It's just a minute. And you'll notice here, I've got an event, which is the A1 alarm, which means it's going to sound the alarm and say, hey, your parts are done, come pull them. The temperature is the same, so it's a 1500 degree for 1 minute. And then our next sequence is PT4, which I have set to a 0 value. When you're running through a ramp and soak and the controller sees a 0 value, it stops everything. It does not continue the rest of the segments. You have 9 segments available to use, but we're only using 3 of them. All right. So that's the values we're going to plug into the computer. We're going to go ahead and write it to the device. And it's already done. So the device has been written to, and we are ready to go plug this back into the American Kiln hotshot. I'm very familiar with this controller. This is the one I used in the Bar Z hotshots. But what's coming, and you're not going to have to pull the controller out anymore and do this. American Kiln is going to be putting a USB right on the side of the oven, so you can take your laptop over to the oven and plug it in, or leave a cable plugged into it all the time. And it also gives you status monitoring too, so you could actually monitor your oven off of your laptop, which is pretty slick. You can see what the controller is doing during the cycles. All right. So let's go plug this back in and continue our argon test. Okay, on your initial setup, if you've got a flow meter on your welding bottle, on your argon bottle, they're usually way too high a resolution. See or low resolution. That goes all the way up to 50. And initially, with an open hose, set this to 10, which is full scale of the one on the hotshot. So with an open hose, set that flow meter to 10 cubic feet an hour with this adjuster here, and then over at your hotshot, now you've got control between 0 and 10. All right, so we can go all the way up to 10 if we want to, and we can block it. We can go all the way down to 0 if we want. But best results are between 6 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and flow it in at 6 for this test. All right, so we're going to flow 6 cubic feet an hour. That smaller injection tube with the smaller holes flows plenty of argon. So like I said, we can go all the way up to 10 if we wanted to. We could really crank it to it if we needed to. So we're going to get some parts ready. Right now we're purging right now, but we have to open the door to put the parts in, which we're going to introduce a bunch of oxygen. So we're going to go ahead and get our parts ready to go in. And during the ramp up, remember we had a 120-minute ramp up here. During the ramp up, we're going to be purging the whole time. So we're going to start both cycles right at the same time. We're going to start the argon and the temperature ramp up. So we'll have 2-hour purge, 2-hour ramp up, and then we'll do a soak. All right, so let's get this thing going. Okay, well, we're all ready to go. I've got a little scrap of low density brick there just to elevate the part slightly, and I've got a piece of 01 tool steel here that I polished one side just so We'd have a control group so we can see what that side looks like. You might be able to tell the difference when it comes out. There's a couple little rust stains and there's some corrosion there. But I did take that to a Scotch-Brite disc and give that a quick polish. So we're going to put this in there, just kind of stand it up longitudinally so I can grab it with pliers. We're going to close the oven gently so we don't knock the part over. We are going to start here, and I'm going to start my flow right now. We're going to go to 6. Okay, looking good. And we are up. We're going to get the element enabled. We're going to execute program yes, and we're going to run yes. And we are off to the races. Now you'll see that green display just on a slow rise, and it's going from 100 degrees, which was our starting point, to 1500 degrees over a 2-hour period. So that's the ramp soak we put in it. We're doing the test with a 2-hour ramp and a 30-minute soak. You can see how the oven ramps up. The green is the set point, and the red is the actual process value. And that output light blinking is sending a signal to the SSR to fire the element. So it's feathering it on the way up. So it doesn't. This oven's an overachiever. It would hit that temperature in 15 minutes probably. So what we're doing is we're doing a very controlled ascent. All right. Okay, well, we just arrived at our temperature, our target temperature, which is 1500. It's now going to maintain that, and you can see our output light is just kind of chugging along there and tickling that element, just keeping it maintain the temperature. So we're at a very steady 1500 degrees, and we're going to pull these parts here in a half an hour. It just as I walked up, it went from 1499 to 1500. So we just hit target, and we're still flowing 6 CFH of argon into the oven, and we'll pull, when the alarm goes off, we'll pull our parts, quench them, and see what they look like. You know, I'm kind of excited to see how, this is my very first test, and according to all my experiences with the hot shots from Bar Z, this should work. So I just want to see if the only variable we've thrown into the mix is the cooling fan on the back of the enclosure. So I want to see if that disrupts the argon in any way. I'm thinking it won't. So we will see. I'll bring you back in a half an hour. Okay, well, our alarm finally went off, and with the automatic cooling fan, turn off the control power, fan will continue to run. We're ready to quench. And we're going to grab our part and go straight into the oil. And the oven's now on cool down. It's on an automatic cycle. You can kill the control power. The fan is thermostatically controlled, so and it's before the control circuit, so you don't have to worry about the fan running all night. You know, just shut it off, walk away, go in the house, go to bed, and by the time you get back the next morning, the fan will be shut down, the oven will be cool. All right. I know everyone wanted to see what this thing looked like with the argon. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my argon right here. Let's take this over to the sink, and we're doing a full quench. We're not going to temper it, because usually we bring it down about between 120 to 150 degrees and go straight to temper. But we're not doing a tempering process here. All we're doing is checking for scale on a piece of scrap. So we're not going to bother with tempering. All right. So, yeah, she's getting pretty cold. It's about 100.5 right now. All right, let's take it over to the sink, clean it, and see what we got. Okay, we still got an oily mess. I'm going to spray it with some water-based degreaser here and de-oil it. And she's cool enough now, it's you can almost handle it. Okay, I can't tell which side I polished. I'm thinking maybe it's this side. Get a towel and dry that off. It's got a very deep black finish. I've seen a little bit of scale down there, just a couple little pieces. The door's open and I'm tilting you out towards the sunlight so you can see those. I think possibly those are the scales that were that was on there, so I only polished one side. Let's take a look at this side. There's a little bit of scaling there. Just peels right off of my fingernail. Okay, looks pretty good. So we hardened that piece and got it where it's not scaled up. Let's next test is going to be, we're going to run the exact same cycle, no argon. All right, so we're in for another 2.5 hour cycle to see what it does with no argon. But that's your results with argon. All right, so I'll find another chunk of scrap and we'll run it through its paces. Okay, we're done with our cycle, and we can take a look at what this argon tube looks like. There it is there. Discolored on the end, no distortion, no scale. The Inconel holds up well. You can see the temperature gradient across there. But we've tested it with and without argon both, without cleaning the needle or the tube. So I'm thinking you can leave this in all the time, whether you use argon or not. On the Hot Shots by Bar Z, I gave you a ceramic plug because it would actually damage the needle if you ran it with no argon. This one with the air cooling around that tube, it doesn't matter, and the heat doesn't soak up into this fitting, and then at that point you're risking the plastic tubing and things like that. But the cooler outside temperatures allow this to live and allow it to stay inside the oven at all times. Okay, well, we've chosen our next test subject, and this is actually a square that had a little mishap over on the mill. Part slipped. So I polished one side, just ran some Scotch-Brite belt over it just to give it a little polish. Oven's cooled down to 250 degrees. We'll put it in the exact same place, right on our little pad in there. And as a reminder, there's the results of our last one. I'll tip it so it'll catch the light a little bit for you there. But that's pretty darn clean. This one, no argon. We got no argon hose on here. We're not flowing any argon at all. We're going to close it up. We're going to run the exact same cycle, which is again, we start out at 100 degrees and slowly ramp up. We're going to enable heat and just let it run. Right now it's about 150 degrees under temperature right now where the thermostat is, but it'll ramp up past it and it'll catch up and it'll be off to the races. But let's let this run. It's going to be 2.5 hours till I get an alarm, and exact same cycles, everything, all things being equal, you know. The only variation is we've removed the argon. So let's bring you back in 2.5 hours when that alarm goes off, quench it, and see what kind of results we get. Okay, well there's our 1500. I set my timer so I know, so I could get the camera rolling so you guys can see what happens when the timer comes on. Let's grab our part. Holy moly, they left a bunch of scale in the oven too. but that piece just fell off. There's a bunch of scale there. Let's get it in oil. That scale will probably flake off, but it still exists. A lot of that scale will just peel right off, and you're going to lose some of the outside layer of the part. You know, you're going to lose a few thousandths to scale. That's why you always leave a grinding allowance if you're going to grind your parts. You leave a little bit of extra to make up for warpage. These parts can warp, grow, shift. Holes can move around and go oval on you, and you know, if you've got a donut shaped piece, it can move on you. So and there's your scaling there. And it's still pretty warm to the touch. She's probably about 100.5 right now. Same drill. Let's take it over the sink, rinse it off, see how much of that scale stuck. There's an awful lot of it there. And this is no argon. As you can see, there's no hose on that oven. I wanted to prove there was no argon flowing. All right, let's go to the sink and clean this off and see what we get. All right, same drill. We're putting the water-based cleaner on there to get the oil off and degrease it. And I'm already seeing some scale and stuff falling down into the sink. All those little black chunks down there. All right, we can handle it by hand now. Alright. All those little black pieces you see down there, that's all scale that came off the part. I don't know if this is going to show up on the camera, but I've got a way that I think we can maybe see a little bit better what's going on. If I take this lightly over to a Scotch-Brite belt on the belt sander and just lightly polish the surface, you can see the depths of the scale, and I'll do it to both pieces. Let me bring you back for that. But this thing's scaled up pretty good. Okay, well, there's both pieces side by side after a light polishing with it was a blue Scotch-Brite belt on the belt sander, and just touched them just to pull anything loose off the top. This is our argon piece right here, and as you can see, it's very hard. I can't even scratch that thing. And here's our second test piece, no argon, and you can see this scale, and it's enough where I can actually catch the tip of my scribe on all that scale. So you can see it pretty much everywhere. This is just what came off between the sink degreaser to get the quenching oil off of it, and then just like I say, that light Scotch-Brite. But those two pieces, maybe let the light catch it a little different. You can see the surface difference between argon and no argon. And that's gonna that scale there's, if I had to guess, it's a good 2 or 3 thousandths of of a lift of that little plateau. This is a little plateau right here, a raised spot. Same here and same here, and these will not come off easily. I'm pushing pretty hard on that. That scale is just glass hard, and it's adhered, and you would literally have to grind it off. So this was a mill finish here. This was just a piece of 1/4 inch. This was just a piece of 1/4 inch tool steel with the mill finish on it. So that's very possibly the mill finish you're seeing right there after we polished it. But both got very hard, and the only difference, it was the exact same process. The only difference was argon on this one, no argon on that one. All right, so that's we had a successful installation of argon on the American Rotary Hotshot. I'm pretty pleased with the results, and you could still play with some flow rates. You know, I based this on 6 cubic feet an hour. For economy's sake, you could probably start trimming it back. You know, go down to 5, go down to 4, and start pulling back your argon based on your ramp up times, and see if you still get the same results. And you know, just to try to be economical with it, so you're not burning through as much argon. But I'm pretty pleased with those results, and 6 is a good 6 cubic feet an hour is a good baseline. All right.